r/antiwork. iHeartRand says, recruiters are looking for ways to conduct stupid AI-based interviews. Included photo. Artistic Abracoma 8792 says, so can I, as a candidate, have an AI interview on my behalf? These recruiters seem to be missing the point that interviews are a two-way process, and any company that suggests to have an AI interview me just failed their end of it. Neutrally says, hey, please find me a piece of software that will make me obsolete, thanks. iHeartRand says, I commented on the post and gave them a piece of my mind. This is ridiculous. Farsa1362 says, I think this recruiter must have far too many good candidates and they just need to filter out all the good candidates who aren't desperate, because I can't imagine any software engineer with decent career prospects agreeing to be interviewed by an AI. Trinidad says, considering that racism/sexism/homophobia are rife in ordinary interview processes, and AI is trained based on past info/decisions, their input, why would anyone be so stupid as to go into a system that they know will be solidifying these factors as hard code? Lost Cause 707 says, same people say to return to office to work, so you can feel like a family, because the human element goes away in WFH. Liquid Secrets says, pretty soon your boss will be a series of canned responses mixed with intractable orders. You'll basically be working for an NPC. And if the algorithm determines you aren't 100% on board, you'll never work again. Alex Grief says, software developers would be the prime candidates to replace themselves with an AI bot to answer the interview questions. Doi0699 Cat says, would a Mican lay off entire our department? Scars says, job seekers will need to get AI to do their interviews for them as well. Tarx says, then the applicant uses an AI for the interview. Hilarity ensues. r/antiwork. Stalin Wishes says, CEO's goals, what's in it for me? A couple of months ago our CEO announced a number of company goals for the next 5 years, one of which was to become #1 or #2 in our industry. At the time, I shrugged and said whatever. Recently the head of our division sent an email about what we could do to advance that goal. That's when I realized, at no point has anyone mentioned what's in it for the employees. I guess I'm supposed to work for the right to say I work for the #1 company. At least until they lay me off. Low Stomach 8831 says, I'm going to do the exact thing the company does to advance my goals. Survive 1014 says, we can offer sizable bonuses and permanent pay increases to our employees when we reach that goal, including significant steps along the way. Stalin Wishes says, this is what I'd like to see, but haven't. Diggs Gwent Player says, that seer will use you like a battery and discard you when you're juiced out. There are a lot of good people out there, and the seer I worked with before was also good, but business is business. Get compensated for your efforts. Don't contribute to the business for free. DM Me Charmander says, pizza party. Swills 300 says, simple, if they want to be the #1 or #2 company in the industry, the pay and benefits should be the #1 or #2 in the industry. Suggest that as a goal to motivate the employees to succeed. Kithian says, Op just realized something employees are not supposed to. Don't tell your boss you know. Kamoran C0 says, if the CEO wants employees to advance his goal, the executive team needs to give employees a reason to want to reach for that brass ring. That usually involves giving out incentives, such as stock options and/or bonuses tied to reaching certain goals. When employees become part owners in the company they work for, that gives employees an incentive to want the company to do better and thus allow the company to propel itself into the #2 or #1 position in that space. The better a company does, the more valuable those stock options become. Bonuses can also work, but are not as strong of incentives because there's less chances for a windfall payout. Getting a less than 1% bonus isn't really enough to make employees want to give it their all. Bonuses are one-time payouts. Stock gains value as the company. r/anti-work. Winter Platypus says, the company I worked for went to shit. I tricked them into a severance deal instead of quitting. I think this is probably too long, but I really want to tell someone the full story. On government projects they hire technical experts from lots of different companies. The government doesn't want to deal with 30 different companies on every project, so it nominates one of the companies to administer the money to all the others. I worked for a company on a gov project where my company was nominated to administer the money. Our company had two main divisions, the scientific/technical division with all the experts. Then we also had the admin division, which were people like the admin manager, ours, accountant, bookkeeper, etc. There was a similar chasm of expertise between two halves of the board members. The idiot board members were convinced that all the money was given to our company and that employing technical experts was a waste of that money. A couple of years ago they created a new idiot-seer position above the scientific one in order to take control of the company. This led to the resignation of the entire technical/scientific branch. Literally everyone except for me. By January 2024 my team had resigned, my supervisor had resigned, the person in charge of the entire technical division had resigned, and all the technical board members had resigned. About half the people resigned, the company was gutted. The people who resigned were still working on the same project with new employers, so my company had to keep paying their salaries. And they were not happy about it. I was going to switch over too, but I was a 20+ year permanent employee and the project was ending in July 2024 anyway. I figured I could ride out those 6 months and try to get redundancy. I was going to quit in July regardless, but I had to pretend that I wanted to keep working there long term to force their hand. They had this fake meeting with me, like, we have all this work for you in July and really want to keep you around, but we understand if you want to quit. They kept slipping in the suggestion that I could resign. In other meetings too. From Jan to July things got ugly. They were sending cease and desists to people, raised an assault charge against one former employee, hired a PR company to attack the former division head. They refused to pay the former employees working for other companies despite the legal agreement. They tried lying about meetings with me to justify firing me. They tried to take control of the project by paying auditors to dig up dirt on the project, then lied about the findings. It was a mess. This is a good point to also mention that over those last 6 months someone leaked info to their competitors, leaked all their legal attack strategies to the people being targeted. The company also mysteriously lost a few multi-million-dollar contracts that they were sure they had secured. Someone with insider knowledge also uncovered that they had been creatively shifting money around between projects and not following the project budgets. Fraud. This person could get in a lot of trouble if it was ever found out. The company had get rid of me by July in order to charge my 20+ year termination to the 2-year government project. Also not okay. I was entitled to 4 weeks notice and they coincidentally scheduled a meeting exactly 4 weeks before the July deadline. They refused to give me a meeting agenda and just kept saying there was nothing important to discuss, it was just to catch up. I knew it was going to be a termination meeting, so I laid a trap. As you have nothing important to discuss relating to my employment, I would like to put a few things on the agenda. I have been putting off some medical issues until the end of the project. I'm sure there are no issues with me taking medical leave, because I have thousands of hours accrued, but I think we should discuss the timelines. I want to make sure I schedule the medical leave in a way that does not impact on all those projects you said you had lined up for me in July. So let's meet to discuss my medical leave, and you can tell me about all those projects you have planned for me. So then when I walked into the termination meeting, it looked like they decided to terminate my employment right after I informed them of my medical leave, which is grounds for a legal claim against them. They also tried to skip the proper process for redundancy. They would do things like send me an email at 9 PM saying that we should meet at 9 AM the next day, otherwise they would proceed without me. I managed to delay it 2 weeks so they couldn't charge it to the government project. I think they still did, but it's way more obvious if it gets audited. I wanted to be made redundant, and I was never going to take them to court, but I hired a lawyer and fought the redundancy and questioned everything. I made them think I was going to sue them to give me leverage in negotiating. I used the leverage to ask for my pro rata long service leave, about 5k extra, that I was not entitled to. I could have asked for a lot more, but I wanted them to see it as a cheap way out of their problems. They quickly drafted a legal document for the money and added that I waive my right to sue them. They were so worried about being sued they added all kinds of legal immunity clauses, even stuff that has nothing to do with my employment. I responded very innocently that for such a small amount I did not want to sign a one-sided agreement. I made a bunch of small changes to the wording in all the sections to make every clause mutual. So then it wasn't suspicious when I made the legal release part mutual too. They didn't agree to all the changes, but left the mutual legal immunity in and signed it. I got 3 months leave payout, got an additional 4 months redundancy, got a $5k payment just because, and got full legal immunity for anything I may or may not have done in the course of. Mammoth at 3463 says, "Damn, can you please teach me your ways? I'm at a company that thinks it's more important for the CEO to hire their kids to work remote than make sure that our office follows OSHA guidelines XD. I don't know what a chal says. You could start by reporting them to OSHA Mayo." Baron 12 says, "Nice. Clean hands or not, they might still have tried to pin it on you." A Twitter fence says, "You were playing chess, my friend. In a much lower stakes, much less complicated situation, I once had a company strongly suggest I quit. I told them if they no longer wanted my services they could fire me, but I'd be willing to resign with a 2-week severance. We went back and forth a dozen times over the course of a day, which obviously I was being paid by them to do, and eventually they broke and wrote me a check. For the record, I was ineligible to collect unemployment because I was a true 1099 independent contractor, so I wasn't losing out on unemployment by resigning." Jmar Tapmt says, "Beautiful." Miserably am 9638 says, "Bravo, this is pro level awareness." Tommy 6860 says, "Please note that is an exception to your previous employment, not the rule. This would not apply to nearly 99% of all other workers. I'm glad things really worked out for you, and the newer management appears to be a dead team management set up against the purpose of the company. What is the name of that company?" Present Enthusiasm 370 says, "What does redundancy mean here in this context?" Captain Puppy 0 says, "This was a pleasure to read. As someone who has been screwed over by a big business, I salute you, sir." Slendermanus Midded says, "Full legal immunity for anything I may or may not have done in the course of my employment. Ha ha ha. Nice." Ursantenza says, "I had to check where you are from, because that mess really looks like Italy, lol." That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.